In 1998, a PlayStation game launched that didn't just change the style genre, it changed everything. This wasn't just gameplay, this wasn't just graphics, this was a cinematic experience that made players question war, identity, control, and even reality itself. This game was Metal Gear Solid. Before Metal Gear Solid, games were mostly seen as mechanical experiences. Even narrative-heavy titles like Final Fantasy or The Legend of Zelda relied heavily on text dialogue and simplified plots. Hideo Kojima, the visionary game designer behind the Metal Gear series, wanted more. A self-professed movie buff, Kojima viewed games not just as toys, but as a new medium for interactive cinema. His goal with Metal Gear Solid? Well, to direct a game that felt like a Hollywood thriller, packed with espionage, moral ambiguity, and powerful character moments. He says, and I quote, "I wanted players to not only play a game, but to feel like they were inside a movie." This idea led to the unprecedented blend of real-time cutscenes, voice acting, cinematic framing, and dynamic storytelling that had never been attempted at this scale before. Solid Snake was more than just an action hero. He was haunted, broken, and disillusioned. Every boss in Metal Gear Solid was a symbol of trauma. Sniper Wolf and the horror of growing up in a war. Psycho Mantis, abused and twisted by pain. Falcon Raven, a spiritual warrior clashing with modern machinery. Each encounter wasn't just a fight, it was a philosophical moment. Characters gave speeches, they shared their regrets, they questioned their existence. Said by Solid Snake himself, "We are not tools of the government or anyone else." The writing was layered, touching on love, loss, purpose, and existential dread. This emotional storytelling helped players form real connections with the cast and even with the villains. One of Metal Gear Solid's most iconic and interesting moments was the Psycho Mantis boss fight. This wasn't just an enemy encounter, it was a meta-hero. Mantis reads your memory card, he comments on your gameplay habits, and the solution? Well, physically plug your controller into another port. This shattered the barrier between player and game. It showed that Kojima saw you, the player, and not just Snake. And it set a precedent for games like Undertale and Batman Arkham Asylum years later. While most games avoided political commentary, Metal Gear Solid dove straight into it. Genetic engineering and the ethics of creating soldiers, nuclear deterrent, and the illusion of safety. The military-industrial complex as a self-sustaining machine. Metal Gear Solid made players think deeply about the world they live in. It didn't preach, it asked, who am I really fighting for? These themes elevated Metal Gear Solid from just a game to a piece of social commentary, reminiscent of films like Apocalypse Now or Doctor Strangelove. The original Metal Gear Solid ran on the first PlayStation, a console with strict hardware limits. Kojima and his team at Konami had to get creative. They used pre-rendered backgrounds for dramatic angles. Voice files were compressed, but still emotionally powerful. The codec system allowed deep conversations without taxing the system. The development process was notoriously difficult. Kojima has admitted that many of his cinematic ambitions had to be scaled down or creatively interpreted to fit the PlayStation's limits. Yet instead of being held back, the limitations forced clever design decisions that ended up becoming part of the game's identity. Metal Gear Solid paved the way for The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War 2018, and BioShock. Any modern, narrative-driven game that blends gameplay with cinema owes a massive debt to Metal Gear Solid. Even Call of Duty campaigns adopted the cinematic formula. Games started hiring Hollywood writers, actors, and composers. Video games became storytelling machines. And Kojima, well, he became the Quentin Tarantino of gaming, a creator whose name alone promised something bold, weird, and brilliant.